we are going to be left struggling to figure out, what do we do now as far as UK is also concerned, and the uncertainties which are going to come with it. Will this go through? Will this not go through? Having said that, so far UK has really been transparent and very open in their transactions. So we hope that kind of a situation would not come up as far as UK is concerned.
Well, I totally agree with your last comments. UK is different on how they treat or negotiate these things. US could be blunt and obnoxious at times, but UK is more polite, and they will, as we say, that they will actually ask you before they stab you in the back. Can I stab you in the back, please? So they're like that, and they're extremely polite. But they will eventually do what they have to do.
They'll also invite you for a lunch or a dinner. And
exactly. So that's the difference between UK and US. So I guess we're running behind a schedule. If you have any questions for me or any thoughts to share before we get on with the questions from the audience?
No, I think the only one point I just wanted to add on to Gagan is what you mentioned is going back to what the earlier session was, immigration trends, is that there is a lot of uncertainty that is coming to the key markets, the US presidential elections, the UK Brexit, and the Singapore and Australia also planning to do a lot of changes. I think the key is, one, we need to plan well in ahead of time. It is not going to be earlier of just-in-time demand fulfillment of people. I think the key is going to be say that what is the right skill and people that I need to put in at what time. As I said earlier, the workforce combination and diversity is going to play a key part to it. So one of the key takeaways would be say that we probably have an opportunity to for an immigration, and I will go back to what Sri presented in the keynote yesterday on the workforce. And also Anuj mentioned that immigration can no more function in silo because of all these changes. This has got change on your benefits, this has got change on your wages, this has got changes on your employment law, and also the immigration. So the time has come for immigration and other teams to work together to ensure that such changes, however drastic or significant they are all mitigated by working together. That's the point that I would want to make up.
Absolutely, and because that's with all these changes and the increased cost pressures that you're going to have as far as UK is concerned, that's one way you can look at trying to mitigate out these cost pressures which are coming, is to seeing your sourcing strategy and from where and how you're getting resources to staff your project needs. And yes, the JIT just-in-time thing will again, not be a viable model, and you have to have a more strategic view in terms of how you're going to be servicing clients in the UK.
Well, if I were to add my 2 cents, there are no two ways about it. In any geography that you see, I'm afraid to say this, but Indian techies are not welcome. When you go to US, Canada, Singapore, and you see our tech resources with a laptop on their back and going on the roads or having coffee, etc. over here, there. If you ask a local taxi driver or a local person who's lived or was born in that geography, the perception about those Indian tech workers on the streets is not really, as if they've received Albert Einstein. And it's not welcoming, honestly. The undercurrent that you get from speaking to the locals in these geographies who have nothing to do with IT do not have a very high perception about these Indian tech workers. For most of them, the perception is, these guys come over here to take away jobs of our kids. That's the perception that they carry on the streets. And that's the perception that builds over a period of time and gets translated into public policies, because they ultimately pressurize their congressmen, senators, and what have you, and MPs. because that's the perception that the people on the road have about Indian tech workers, even though most of these guys are highly educated, highly skilled. They're actually helping these geographies alleviate some of their local skill shortages, but that doesn't occurs to them. That's what this technology is doing, because technology is never seen. Technology is always behind the scenes. It's the underlying layer, whether you talk about retail, banking, insurance, nobody touches technology. When I say nobody, as in the end customer. When you walk into a bank, you go there and you see nothing but bunch of computers lying here and there, and somebody keys in something and gets the data from you. So that's the perception that we have to fight on the street. It's going to be extremely challenging and costly affair. We can't go and fight on the streets with each cab driver or try to change their perception. We know that we have to focus our energy to policymakers, try and gain their mind share on how these companies, these individuals are adding value to your economy and to your companies. So that's what we've been doing. So with that, I think we should jump into questions right away. So Home Office has indicated short-term visa route will be stopped. And I guess this is being stopped from 2017, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And what's the alternative? I guess none. You have to apply for what is available and have to pay 41,000 pounds or whatever that figure is from April onwards. I think that figure has now been marked higher to about 30,000 pounds this week when the announcement came through. By April onwards, you will have to pay everyone 41,000 pounds to be able to get them over there. But yes, I mean, you guys will come up with your own famous Indian jugaad. But I think theoretically, it wouldn't make sense to get people on ground and get them back as you were doing, so you'll have to do a different model. You probably would want to have people stay there for a longish bit of time rather than come back in 12 months. So you may want to send people for 3 years, 4 years, shift them to different projects as far as possible, or as far as their skills allow. So that would be, I think the only option. That's not my advice, but that's the only option that you have to live with. Any thoughts from?
The other thing you have to look at, as we've all been speaking, is it's not just that $41,500 pound, that you're talking about. You're talking of various other surcharges which are going to come into picture. So your cost actually is going to be significantly higher than the 41,500 that they're quoting. So you have to look at alternate sourcing, talent sourcing strategies. Is it going to be cheaper for me to hire someone locally over here? Do I get a graduate, who can do this for me? So you have the Tier 2 ICT graduate trainee program. You have to take a look if that's something which you can leverage, or if you have an EU person whom you could get at a lower cost, obviously not compromising on the minimum wage that you would be required to pay. So that's another way you could look at seeing how you could try and lower down these costs that are going to be coming up because of the changes based on the MAC recommendations. Kiran, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay. This is a good question. I like it. Can Brexit become void? Brexit in theoretical sense has not been triggered. Yes, the referendum has happened. The Brexit will only be triggered when UK Prime Minister triggers the Article 50, as I said, as per their treaty. And to add more complexity over here, now you have the High Court verdict from
So
UK that the Parliament also will have a say. God knows what that means. But all it means is just chaos. It's just chaos in UK. If you ask me, when will this happen? I think triggering Article 50 could take as long as 2 years. This is because, and I certainly don't feel that this will happen in the existing regime that we have, because there's a lot of underlying you know, should I say non-confidence, because Prime Minister May was also from the Remain camp, and she suddenly has been put in a Game of Thrones to lead UK out of the EU, whereas she was fully with the Remain camp and not with the Leave camp. So people who actually voted either ways are asking questions, you know, how can a person who by heart was voting for the Remain camp can negotiate a good deal for us to leave the EU? So, and adding all of these complexities, now look at what has happened since the referendum. Theoretically, economically, UK does not need to trigger Article 50. You know why? UK pound has already lost 25% of its value. It's 1.2 at the moment, and euro is 1.1, so it's almost at the par. So without doing anything, without triggering anything, UK has made its economy extremely competitive, being part of the European Union. They've not done anything by now, and their central bank has also had not intervened in the markets by reducing 25 percentage basis point interest rates. So they have had to do nothing, and their economy has become 25% more productive on the paper. Yes, London as a financial center has lost its sheen because people or foreign investors who were pouring money through London now get lesser value when they withdraw back. So London as a financial center is losing its sheen, but UK as the economy is gaining, and gaining tremendously. They become extremely competitive at the moment. So in my view, economic sense doesn't make for them to actually go ahead and trigger one. They could just, you know, stay with this honeymoon period for 2 years, 3 years. An economic think tank in Brussels says UK will not trigger Article 50 for next 10 years. I don't know what will pan out, how this will pan out, but I don't know whether Parliament can now say Brexit is void. Oh, by the way, you know, let's do a different referendum and so on and so forth. No, I don't think, you know, it's that easy. Prime Minister Cameroon lost his job because of this very referendum. So there's no going back on referendum. That's for sure. But when will this Article 50 get triggered? God only knows. Everybody would have it their own view. But it cannot become void. You know, today or tomorrow or next 5 years, 10 years, they will have to move out, and UK will have to become a separate island, not just, you know, figuratively, but also politically. What percentage of UK workforce went off? I guess UK workforce in UK, I think, was the question. So,
How much of the
what percentage of workforce in UK is from EU and non-EU countries?
For UK, I could answer on behalf of the industry because, you know, if I were to put this question to you, you will be sharing some numbers that you may not want to. But we did, you know, collect a lot of information from top 10 companies, and you know, they came back. Our data suggested that, you know, in UK we were about almost 50-50, which is about UK plus EU nationals versus visa holders. So industry-wide, we were almost 50-50. In some sense, you know, it was 52% in favor of UK or EU people than the visa holders. I guess we are running out of time, but we are actually out of time now. But we can quickly take 2 questions. What can be possible challenges for non-British employees with the new move, and how we can safeguard?
So the question is a little unclear. So when you're talking of the new move, are you talking of Brexit, or are you talking of?
I think it should be Brexit only.
I would assume it is Brexit. So yeah, that's you know, as we've been talking, also is a big challenge because there is a lot of uncertainty over there. However, as you know, Gagan was saying, the range of how long will Brexit actually take, 2.5, 3 years, to as long as, you know, think tanks thinking that it may not happen for the next 10 years. So definitely there is an uncertainty which exists and which is directly linked to when you know, Article 50 is triggered off and when UK formally moves out of the EU. But till such time as I believe the clarifications which have been provided is UK will continue to honor all the existing provisions their commitments that have been made to use. So at this point of time, I don't think there is any immediate cause of concern, but yes, as things fold out, okay, we'll have to look at seeing how the scenario changes. Kiran?
I think just to add on, all of us need to just track them and know who are those people who could be impacted. Just keep a close tab on that. I think then we should be able to switch over. I don't think it will happen immediate. It will probably take some time for you, but tracking is important.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you, both of you, and thank you, all of you, for being attentive. Now, I guess we are between you and your lunch, so we'll get off the stage as quickly as possible. Thank you very much.
Not so
Thank you,
fast.
everyone.
You've got some trophies to receive here. And thank you, panel.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Gagan.